Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley and we're going to be playing Shogun 2 Total War. This is going to be a huge 3 versus 3 and it is an excellent fight, so stay tuned, stick around for the whole battle. It is a really back and forth one and it plays differently than most Shogun 2 battles in the sense that it doesn't have the big rush with an immediate, death ball with morale collapsing. This one is drawn out with many stages to it. Very cool stuff. In any case, on my side, we have two of the traditional Japanese armies with, I guess, a little bit of modern influence with some matchlock semis joining us here. And then we have one modern force on our side here. So he has a bunch of units, including one parrot gun, which is critical to have in these engagements, especially when the opponent has their own set of parrot guns. So they're going to be facing off. This more modern Japanese force, or Fall of the Samurai force here, does have a whole bunch of Yarikachi, Katanakachi, so lots of cheap troops, and in the front, Tosa rifles. So that's an interesting composition. Tosa rifles here obviously having the best range, so he is expecting to try and snipe and kite the enemy back, and then when the enemy gets too close with their rifles, bum rush with the big line of troops, take the fire and just get in there. So that's an interesting kind of 1-2 punch. The downside to that is, well, we have the artillery, the parrot guns, and they're going to be trying to take out these critical units. So if you can knock those guys out, that'll be a great boon to us. And then this army gets reduced to kind of a half-ass traditional force. Although he does have some saber cav. In the center, another Imperial army. Or sorry, this is going to be a tradition. Oh no, sorry, Imperial army here. And he is going to be moving forward with 4 blocks of the Yariki. My guys are also moving forward. I have 2 hit and run bow cav. So these guys are my vetted up archer cavalry. Made them pink so that you fear them. But yeah, these guys are excellent. Quick reload, lots of damage, lots of ammo, and very fast, which means that you can kite enemy blobs like this. Now I'm being a little bit wary because he's got 4 of them and incoming gunfire, so that's why I'm kind of jostling around. But for the most part, if there weren't that incoming fire, I could probably kite these guys to death. I also have 2 bow warrior monks. I call this one 9,000 range because you can get range upgrades on your warrior monks. I didn't on these guys, so I'm just playing psychological games on my unit naming convention. But anyways, they are here to back me up. I also have some Nodachi Samurai. My core here has 2 of these Naginata Samurai, heavy armored, and 2 Great Guard. And then I have some more Katana Cavalry. And on the right-hand side, 2 Yari Cav backed up by 2 Nodachi. So kind of a big Nodachi core with some Naginata Samurai with high armor, trying to use them to absorb enemy bow fire that might be coming in, and then a pretty good archer core, 2 of them mounted on the cavalry that we've seen there, and then 2 that are going to be my bow warrior monks. So anyways, our key was to take the hill. The enemy had the same idea, and that's why they're charging in here with 4 Katana Cav, although they can get pushed out of here pretty effectively. And we're not taking too much cannon fire. It is coming in hot and heavy, but it's not hitting too much. In any case, we're going to be moving forward. We've seized the hill, hidden a lot of our guys, and yeah, the engagement is underway in the center. Let's put this back on play. So yeah, like I said, that's the problem for our opponent. He only has Yari Ki here. And so they can start to take some fire from my guys. In the woods, they're not going to take too much damage, but there's not much they can do. They can kind of zone us out, which is what they're doing, and then kiting back. I guess they're trying to just pin us, keep us from taking the forest immediately and wasting our shots, which is a pretty good move, but they're not really capitalizing on this. Nothing is moving up in support. The Armstrong gun here going to be hitting some of my bow calves, so as long as I keep them up and moving about, I don't think I'll be too worried. There is another Imperial force on this side. Oh no, sorry, this is a standard force. So 2 Imperial forces in the center. And actually this is what I'm most scared of, a revolver cav blob. So he has one of them here. I think there's more hidden in the forest. Those guys, mobile gunners that can really decimate your guys with quick volleys. You got to be very careful about engaging those. So good thing we didn't have to deal with those guys here. And now we've seized the forest. The advantage of having the forest, of course, is, well, now our guys can be hidden, which gives us some reprieve from those guns until at least we get spotted. But the Yariki here are gonna retreat after having taken 8 losses, 9 losses amongst all of them. Not nothing to worry about. But here's that revolver cav line, more Vermilion Bird Force, Royal Marines, a pretty elite force here pushing forward. And I'm just going to posture in the center. I'm going to move up with my bow warrior monks, and in the forest here, they can kind of shut down anything in no man's land. And then we're going to have to choose where do we want to attack. So it seems like the best place to attack is going to be kind of this force here, and the thinking behind that is, well, on this front, Tosa rifles plus a cannon means that they're going to get the first shot. Any attack here is going to be rather costly, at least from the front and initially, so we're going to hold off there, and we're just going to trade with our guns, and he's dancing around here to take minimal losses. In the center, same thing, the enemy is buttoned up nicely with some guns hidden in the woods, not something we want to attack, we want a weaker target, so that is going to be down to me to push the right flank. So I've pivoted around with 2 Katana Cav. Now my opponent is unveiling some of his own units on the flank here. So he does have a mounted gunner force, and then he also has some Yari Cav, excuse me. Oh, and actually he has one of those elite, where is it? Spears of Shizukatake. So 30 men unit, but it's essentially like a hero Cav unit. Extremely hard to kill, very, very powerful. Let's take a look at them. Yeah, they look glorious. So he's got a pretty beefy cav flank that's pushing forward. So that's why I'm pulling up with more cavalry, including my bow cav. So my bow cav is going to be here to kite this blob, but he has these mounted gunner forces. With 2 units against his, I should be able to trade, but I'm very scared of their initial volley. This initial volley will take out a third of my unit, so I'm just going to try and kite and stay out of range. My opponent is not going to do this dance, knowing that with 2 units, I can kind of get one around the flank. So he's just going to use that to ward me off and prevent the flank. I know that I can try and take this out, but I need more cavalry units, so I'm going to try and pull in my Katana Cav. These guys aren't great in the initial charge, but they'll be good kind of after the fact for charging into the flank of this blob here in the center. Speaking of the blob in the center, he has bow samurai, which have a lot of armor and can take a beating, backed up by matchlock, so it's going to be a little bit hard for me to pick this apart. So yeah, across the board, that's why you're seeing a pretty big slowdown in the engagement, is because we don't really have the best engagements to take here. But we have taken key positions, the advanced forests here, and I'm going to be starting to, like I said, precipitate the move in the center. I continue to try and bait out fire. You can see me dancing left and right with my bow cav. I've taken 4 losses as a result of this in various places, but I'm just trying to bait out more and more ammo. I'm kind of playing the game where, hey, this is going to be a long drawn out fight. I can tell by the standstill we have here. Let me draw out as much ammo from these bow samurai as possible. And so that's something you can do in Shogun. It's a little micro trick that you can do. You give your unit a movement order, the shots will kind of lead in front of your target, and if you double back, you can get them to waste entire volleys, and that applies for a lot of Total War titles. Anyways, I know that if I'm going to be attacking this right-hand side, my enemy is going to want to reinforce it, so I need something to hit the center. So that's why I'm shuffling kind of most of my army over here. And eventually I'm going to be pulling over these bow warrior monks, because that's the key that I'm missing on that flank. I really need something to strike at a distance. But for now, they're kind of holding this front. And we actually have some fire rockets. Not something you see too often, but I guess on these large fun battles, you know, why not? So that's pretty cool. So with the parrot gun plus these fire rockets, that is pretty freaking epic. I do want to watch this just so we can get another one of these shots to come off. They have relatively low accuracy and long reload time, so not the greatest of units. But I mean, in standstills like this, anything with extreme range is awesome to have. There she blows. And against these Tosas, holy crap, that's awesome. They are in skinny lines, so yeah, not ultimately doing too much damage, but like I said, it's all about precipitating and getting the early advantage. I am now swarming over here. I pulled out my secret units, which is going to be my Great Guard. So they were kind of hidden in the woods back here, and with that, my opponent is going to start to reconsider, because the Great Guard is some of the best cavalry you can have in the game. Very elite units with special abilities to them, and so now we're starting to get a mass on this front. My opponent doesn't want to quite show that he's gonna retreat. I know that he is gonna retreat, but he's just posturing at this point. He's gonna do a jab and then immediately turn about, because look how much I have coming in plus spear support. He's just doing this to buy time for himself. Here comes my bow cav pushing on the left flank. These mounted gunners are forced to retreat. That's why I'm pushing up with my bow cav to try and capitalize on that. And now I'm going to come in with my knights, my Yari Cav, charging in. what's going on here is I know his mounted gunners are going to fire. They're going to shoot at something, and if they're going to shoot at anything, I would be more than happy to shoot at the bow cav. And what I'm doing here is I'm baiting him into firing, and take a look at this. My opponent does a little bit of a micro lapse and shoots most of his volleys into this fire cav. My bow cav here is skating out of there with just minimal losses, so this cavalry force is chasing the wrong target. I get a shot right into the flank against his fire cav, which is an elite cavalry unit. One hit with the Yari key, another katana cav coming in as close support. It's trying to pull through, but it'll get caught in the engagement. And then I have spears on the side. My opponent realizes this, and this is an important thing. If you lose a unit like this, it's already routing. Don't commit. This is the sunk cost fallacy. He says, oh, I have to engage to this fight. This is not an engagement you're going to win. I have spears nearby. I have flanking cavalry forces, great guard and whatnot coming in. Just pull out. Cut your losses at this point. But he's going to commit a big blow here, which is going to be to try and overcommit, which can be a big problem. Spears of Shizugatake, however, being very, very scary units, they're going to get in on the flank. I'm going to charge back into them with these Yari cav. So we'll watch this engagement get underway. Most of my guys dying on the charge there. I don't think he will have lost a single man. Okay, 3 men, but soon this will turn as his favor. I clean up these units, and I'm going to keep the pressure on. Those mounted gunners are key to knock out. However, my main punch down the center wasn't quite ready. That would have been the moment, just as his guys are repositioning, that would have been the moment to truck on through with my units. However, I'm kind of not super committed to this assault. I still have units, a third of my force scattered on this side, and so that's why I wasn't quite prepared to assault this. This is an entire army. And so without me having all of my forces, again, I don't want to fall prey to that sunk cost fallacy where, oh, look, I'm winning, let me throw everything in. That's the perfect opportunity for me to lose. So that's why I'm not entirely engaging, at least without the reinforcement of my bow warrior monks, which I'll be pulling into the fight later. Meanwhile, our opponents are going to try and charge in. They've taken a bruising here. The paragons are trading, but I think we will win this fight in the long run just because we have the paragon advantage and a lot more guns than they do here. So they're going to try and push up and attack our guys. I guess they didn't quite know how many units we had in the center. So our gunners are going to unleash, and then our Naginata Samurai are going to charge in here, blunt the Saber Cavalry Assault. We have the General in here as well. So this assault on the hill is going to be absolutely shellacked and destroyed. Guns forcing these guys to rout. So this was a big waste on this side, and it's going to precipitate again another one of these sunk cost fallacies where he's like, oh, I've lost my cav, I have to capitalize on the fact that the opponent is engaged, and he's going to throw in his Shogatai and other units. So again, that's not a good move, tactically speaking. My bows have gotten, I think, their maximum use. I'm going to keep them around just to ping these Shogatai and then pull them back to the main action. Where over here, what ended up happening is I tried to chase the enemy away, but these mounted gunners got away scot-free, and that's going to come back to bug me later in the battle. Meanwhile, over here, I've finished up cleaning up most of his guys. I disengaged from these Spears of Shizugatake. I don't quite know why. I think he escaped. I guess I lost track of these guys with their red flag and my red flag. Assumed the battle was done and kind of pulled back to the center because I wanted to hit this nice big juicy target in the middle. The enemy had pushed forward with some revolver cav, but I countercharged with my Catch Me Marathon monks. These guys are very quick, and they have the ability to scare the enemy. So the fact that they're fast, the revolver cav got some shots that were disrupted by the hill, and then I charged in after them, popped War Cry, and that effectively shattered this revolver cav at half health. So I'm very happy. Another revolver cav coming in here. I'm going to continue to chase because this is a good chance for me to do damage. Actually, I'll pull that. I'll redact that, I should say. I'm actually pulling out of this engagement because the revolver cav have a better shot on me with some support. So I'm going to pull back behind the hill. You can see those shots whiff, and then I'm going to re-engage. Down in the center, what's happening is I've spotted these Matchlock Ashigaru, 2 of them, plus some bows. And this is an excellent opportunity for my Nodachi to charge and get some nice kills. Over on this flank, I tried to charge in with my Katana Samurai. He countercharged with his own Katana Samurai, and what I tried to do is disengage from this combat. I could take this engagement, but what I'd rather do is pull these guys into the center, expose their flank, and charge in with my own Katana Cav, who I think can trade much more cost effectively. Meanwhile, my Yari Cav, are going to charge into the flank of these Matchlock Ashigaru. Nothing here that can really fire back at me except for these mounted gunners, so they're going to try their best, but I really need to knock out these Matchlocks. Anyways, in the center, my push here with my Nodachi got clipped on an enemy Katana Samurai, and so I didn't quite get the victory that I wanted. Over in the woods here, however, I have a lot of forces pushing up. My Great Guard is also going to engage, charging against these Revolver Cav. I should get there before they reload, so that's going to be a nice pickup. Yeah, but the Great Guard are pretty heavy, so it's going to be hard for me to get there. I do crash in with my units, so this is nice. I'm getting the jump on a lot of these gunner forces. So that's really awesome for me. However, my opponent has this nice defense in depth. He's retreated his gunners safely, and he's got a lot of bows and a lot of firepower. So anything I throw at the front lines, and if he can tie it up with one unit, he can do a lot of damage just by holding me. So I don't quite have the unit composition to crack this, especially with the mounted gunners that can pummel any cav that punch through this. That's going to be bad for me. Knowing that, I do, however, commit nonetheless with one Great Guard unit because there is such a big juicy blob of matchlock guys here. So I charge right on through. And I think this is worth it just to get a lot of kills against these skirmisher units. Yes, he has marathon monks nearby, but I really needed to crack those. So I do a hit, and then I try and pull on out of there and swap out with my Nodachi. But these Great Guard are going to take a lot of damage. Meanwhile, over here, I'm starting to destroy his samurai, but reinforcements are inbound. My Naginata warrior monks are going to change with these bulletproof monks. But yeah, in the center, I'm starting to get overwhelmed. Like I said, I only had, half to 3/4 of my force here. So, and even there's an enemy force engaged with some of my guys on the flank here. So this is a total mess. I'm getting almost like 2v1. Holy crap. And I do have to say, this is freaking beautiful with the sunlight, the pink warriors, and then the trees here. Oh, and the smoke effects looking very cool. But anyway, so I'm not getting the best of engagements. I'm trading pretty well, and we're doing okay in the engagement. But with a 2v1 against not my entire army, it's I'm not going to be able to last. So finally, I pull over my 2 bow warrior monks. They're going to be critical to that engagement, and we really shot up the enemy. The assault on this hill was not a good move for our opponent's side. We've been tearing it up. Finally, their infantry is going to close, but they're slow, they're tired, and we're just going to be able to countercharge with all of our units in the back here. Meanwhile, in the center, we got a nice clean strike with the Yari Cab that cleaned up these Tosa rifles. Took a couple hits, but this blob is really doing good work. Meanwhile, in the center, my ally is pouncing with the huge cavalry blob here. He saw that I was tied up and engaged and had a lot of these guns focused, and now we're going to get a big brawl, a mess in the center. A lot of these Infanterie de Marine are going to try and regroup, but get charged. Lots of stuff going on here. Popping all sorts of abilities on these Naginata warrior monks to try and crack this, but the problem is he has a lot of reinforcements. We're doing this assault in the support of the hill, which means all these gunners are going to be able to shoot right into this big blob. So that's the problem I have with my ally, is he's clumping everything with his cav, not really any micro. He could have definitely left a couple here, sent a couple through the gap, and really knocked the back of these guys. Had he just, kept a couple units here, and instead of retreating, sent them around here, we could have absolutely destroyed this force. But alas, he wasn't quite doing that. In the meantime, like I said, the backlines here with all these skirmishers, and especially the matchlocks, are going to destroy my guys. So he's going to win out in this engagement. I am somewhat winning back here. I'm going to charge in against these mounted gunners with my hit and run bow cav. I really want to get them off the field. So I'm going to pull up, get a volley off, and then charge into combat. Meanwhile, my general was engaged against these spears of Shizugatake, but they are super powerful. Even with 3 men, I think they can actually kill my general. Plus, with enemy units, I have to pull out of here. So here comes my bow cav. They're going to charge in, actually getting a lot of damage done against these enemy units. I guess it's the fact that my guys are more samurai than his. So we're actually going to be able to kill his guys rather handily. The spears come in, but not before I kill these guys. Anyways, my guys are routing in the center. My ally comes in with his massive blob that's just, right-clicking on units. Again, a little bit more micro, and he could have shot the gap here and hit these units in the back. And he's gonna pay for this. I mean, shots are gonna be inbound, so he comes in, strikes this blob, does a little bit of damage, and pulls out. Not quite sure what the point of that was. If he'd stayed a couple seconds longer, he probably could have shattered this entire force. So he's being very weird with his cavalry, and he's getting them tired. And that'll come back to bite us. Anyways, I've pulled up with my Naginata Samurai. These guys are tired, but they are critical. My opponent has a lot of bows on this side, and these guys are heavily armored, so that is going to be kind of what helps me push the advantage here. I'm also pulling up with my bow warrior monks. They're going to stop midfield, and their objective is to shut down any enemy reinforcements in the center. Some gun line troops were trying to come in here to force our guys back, but with the supporting fire of my bow warrior monks, we're able to force them back. So, you know, I'm going to have to be very careful with my engagements here. So the bow is slowly making their way over, shutting down this force, and then finally I'm going to scoot them over here and start to piecemeal pick these guys apart. Meanwhile, over here, my opponent seems to have forgotten these Spears of Shizugatake. I have 13 bowmen firing into this unit, but this is how tough they are. They have been standing here for quite some time. Couple of volleys in, and it finally kills the second. 2 are left remaining. I believe this unit is unbreakable, and it is just going to stand here in the face of death. Another volley just goes straight through. So those guys, like I said, have tons of ammo, or sorry, tons of health. Anyways, I'm reinforcing on this side. Back in the center, we've absolutely obliterated the Tosa rifles. The remaining Katanakachi and other units have been killed, so this player has been knocked out. Our ally here, Mountain, I don't know how you pronounce this, MTDN. Anyways, he's pretty healthy. Lost a couple units in here, but for the most part is a pretty healthy force. Same with my ally here, RAR04. He's pretty healthy, although most of his money is tied up in this cavalry blob, and I'm a little bit worried about how he's throwing it about. So it's going to come down to the player here in the center. I guess greater than sign, however you want to call this. He still has Yariki, which can be pretty potent, and he has a lot of these gunners. So they're going to try and face off against our guys. We have our own bow warrior monks. So it looks like slowly but surely we'll be able to force this back. Where do we want to pivot? Let's pivot back to my side of the battle, which is where kind of the chess game is going to be taking place. So I know that the main problem that I have with this force is the gunners. The gunners can do tremendous damage against a lot of my units. I'm not so scared about his bows, because his bows, you know, he can get one volley off, and by the time they get their second volley off, I'll be in there. They're just not going to deal enough damage before I can come crashing in. So my priority is to hit the guns. My opponent knows that that's what I'm doing, and he's going to pull out of this in a full retreat. So ideally I would have had something to punish this, but I don't really have anything in place. My bow cav is too weak. Had I had more of them, they would be able to do more fire, which I'm starting to do, but if I'd kept more of them alive, they would be hot on their tails, firing away. If the enemy tried to turn about, well, then they would face my bow warrior monks. In any case, that's what's happening here, and this is going to allow me to seize this position, and finally we'll be able to then close in on the player in the center. On this flank, the enemy forces are going to form up and fight us. Infanterie de Marine against United States Marines, who are pretty tired. This fight should go to the Infanterie de Marine, especially with reinforcements. And yeah, look at these guys in the center, exposing themselves too far. And we have all kinds of units firing here. We have bow warrior monks, we have fire rockets, and then we have what I believe are Shogunate infantry. Yeah, so slowly but surely we're going to be pushing this back, and here comes a massive charge down the center. This is pretty reckless from our ally, because last we saw there were a lot of guns here, so he got pretty close to being in the line of fire, so luckily he's going to pull out. Meanwhile, on this front, I've pushed up, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of back and forth baiting of my opponent. He has more bows, so I chased a bit too close, and now he can engage with me, and so I'm pulling back. He can fire some shots into me. In the forest, I'll have some advantage, but ultimately I want to trade even more cost effectively than that. So that's why I've brought in my heavily armored Naginata warrior monks, and their main objective is to put them in the front lines and have them absorb fire that would otherwise be targeting my bow warrior monks. So sometimes you gotta sacrifice units. What you can even do is what I'm doing here, is pushing them right up against your bows so that they will absorb actually the fire coming in. So a little bit of some tricky stuff there. Meanwhile, my bows are trading against his guys. My bow warrior monks are much more weakly armored, basically having cloth than these guys. So yeah, that's why I need the advantage of the forest to even have a chance here. Let alone the fact that I'm outnumbered. On this front, let's take a look. Some fire arrows coming in from the supporting mountain. That's going to help these guys, choose to run. There are some fire rockets trying to shoot in the distance. Oh my god. Gonna destroy those guys. And so yeah, slowly but surely we're getting an advantage, curling this flank. And once we get critical damage done here, this cavalry wing can be unleashed. And that's why he's holding these guys in reserve, pulling over the general. back to the engagement on this front. My ally here, RAR04, is pushing over with some bows and bow warrior monks and matchlock samurai. The matchlock samurai is what I really need. His force here is not very elite, and if you bring any type of gun troops on this flank, I'm pretty sure they could obliterate stuff, especially the matchlock samurai with the armor that they have. They can absolutely tank out the bow samurai, get up close, and just shoot them to pieces. So I'm very happy for the reinforcements. And yeah, that's going to trigger my opponent to pull back once more, and I'm going to take the opportunity to charge forward with my bow warrior monks. I was trying to target his matchlock Ashigaru, but I realized, the closer I get, the more liable I am to get fired upon by multiple archers, and so my opponent realizes this. I get a couple early volleys off against the matchlock Ashigaru, and then I'm going to pull out of here, and yeah, just wait, and then get some supporting fire off with my guys here. So forcing my opponent to trade not cost effectively. And take a look at these Nagana Samurai with their high armor. Have been taking archer fire this entire time and still up and running. Just total beasts. And I've upgraded these guys, I believe, to have pretty high armor stats. So that's their purpose, to be a rock. Enemy's going to try and launch a bit of an assault on our guys in the center. He's going to catch a matchlock samurai, but this is going to trigger my ally here, who loves to group up his guys and just charge in a blob to send everything into the center. And yeah, he comes to the battlefield a bit too late. It was already decided. But the cavalry in the center are going to be pretty useful. He could come up here and try and clean up this flank, but again, we don't quite know what's in the woods there, so better to be a little bit safe and slowly push this force back, which we're doing. It's just cool. It's glorious to see all these cavalry charging in the center. With the cherry blossoms here. And yeah, he's playing dangerously close to the woods, but I guess it just goes to show there's actually not much in here. Finally on this side, my opponent has pulled back. I'm continuing to try and bait out shots. My guy's still at 104, and I'll be okay. Yeah, they can probably absorb all the fire from his bows, not too worried. Meanwhile, my monks are sitting just out of range, and they're going to be able to pluck apart these units eventually, although my ammo is getting down to about half to a third at this point, so I don't want to use all my ammo, which is why I've pulled back with one of my bow warrior monks, keeping them fresh, hidden, and with some ammo, just in case I need to have better targets. My opponent realizes that at this point he is going to be losing, so I think he decides to just kind of throw in the towel with an all-out assault. Meanwhile, on this front, I guess the same thing is kind of happening here, where they're slowly pulling back. But the battle should be decided soon. We're closing in with some matchlocks. And take a look at this cavalry blob. It is waiting for the signal to charge into that infantry mess. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide to start to pick my targets with my bow warrior monks, which is exactly what they're best at. Focus fire on one of the big infantry blobs, the heavy infantry blobs of the Katana Samurai. They're charging up the hill. Some supporting fire coming in. And what we're going to do here is focus fire on a couple of his weaker units. Thankfully, the matchlocks were here, which is great. And then what I'm going to do is, shatter this one guy. I'm going to continue to fire into this. And I'm going to switch modes from regular fire mode to whistling shot. And what that does is it's a big morale debuff. I noticed that these guys are already close to routing because of the matchlock fire, because of the outnumbered forces, and because soon there's going to be a big roaring hit of the anvil stroke here coming in to knock these guys out. So I definitely want to have a morale penalty hit these guys. So you'll be seeing me toggle that here soon. Here comes the massive blob attack of the cavalry. Charging in with everything, even the general thrown in for good measure. And he is just going to clean up this flank, hitting the matchlock and just sweeping everything away. In the center here, you can see the whistling shot here, really bringing their morale down, going to help us clean that up much more effectively. The enemy does close here. Oh no, sorry, I killed the enemy. My Dodachi are getting hit. But yeah, the cavalry comes sweeping in, and they're going to come in and close in on the center. On this front, similar thing is happening. We've unleashed the cavalry because the enemy was brought down to critical mass. Some of the carbine cav, I believe, or revolver cav was trying to hold the line, but it is over gloriously. Our guys are overrunning the field, cleaning up everything, finally, after a long-ass stalemate. Glorious stuff. The Shogun has some of the best art in the game. and just the aesthetics are absolutely great. Not the best in terms of like obviously realism. I mean, Rome 2 has some better details, same thing with Attila, but I just love the kind of the aesthetics, the color scheme, the cherry blossoms, the atmospherics. It's all super great, and I love obviously multiplayer. Avatar Conquest is the best thing to ever happen to multiplayer, and I miss it. That being said, that is about it for the battle. We're going to be chasing the remainder of our guys off the battle, the general here retreating, and yeah, that is going to wrap it up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Shogun 2 battle. It's been a while since we've done one, but this one played really excellently. The 3 versus 3 is always fun to watch, and the way it played out in stages, very drawn out, was also dramatic and I hope entertaining. With that being said, let's end the battle, take a look at some of the stats, and I do want to say thank you everyone who has watched me for so long, and those of you who are just joining us, thank you for your support. I just hit 200,000 subscribers, which is an awesome benchmark, and yeah, so I just wanted to give a big thanks to everyone. And what does this mean? Well, I'll be following up with probably a little bit of a celebration video, maybe this weekend or next, as well as a state of the channel address where we can talk about the next steps for the channel, history documentaries that are in progress, and all kinds of stuff like that. So definitely thank you for supporting us all the way to 200K subscribers. Big stuff, never thought I'd be there. And please, 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 if you could check out the Patreon campaign that I've set up that helps fund our documentaries, I would love to be able to do more of that, and your support, as always, will continue to push us further and further. Back to the battle itself, we could take a look at the kills. So I had second most kills for our team. My opponent here, the Mountain Dun, yeah, getting a lot. He was the gunner force, so he was shooting up the entirety of, I believe, this army here. Yeah, with only 699 kills, he was just taking fire continuously that round and just got beaten to a little pulp. He got final kills in the end, trading line fire, but at the end, yeah, just that was not a good trade for him. And you saw during the battle the sunk cost fallacy in play. He charged in Saber Cav, lost them, and then just kind of threw in more guys in a situation where it would have been better to retreat back. Let's take a look at some of the unit stats to see kind of how everyone did. So on my side, the Great Card with 119 and 51, that's decent. You would have expected them to do more. And I kind of owe that to the fact that, yeah, some of their kills were against cavalry, so they helped sweep the right-hand flank, which was really beneficial to me. But then after that, they got a messy charge into the center where the enemy was able to pull back his skirmishers, keep them protected, and then fire into my tied-up cavalry. So that's why these guys ended up dying sooner rather than later. My Nadashi, on the other hand, a couple of them getting into that blob on the right-hand side that we saw, where the enemy was kind of trying to reform. One of them with 213 kills really started to cleave through the enemy, and the rest doing pretty well. Katana Cab with 68, and the few here with 156 doing really good. Naginata Samurai, the guys with a lot of armor with 135, holding it out well. And you can see here, oh sorry, what the hell? Oh, never mind, I got confused. It scrolled down too far. Let's go down just a little bit further. Okay, I was looking at the wrong forces. Sorry about that. Yeah, my Nadachis, Yari doing okay, Katana doing okay. The Marathon Monks really paying for themselves, 146, and that was against some Revolver Cavs, so I was very happy. Bow Warrior Monks doing pretty good. They were just there to kind of control the pace of the battle, pick apart key units, and you could see the way I controlled that flank on the right at the very end was very important to have these Bow Warrior Monks. If I didn't, my opponent could have pressed his advantage and probably killed me, and then turned on the flank of our force and perhaps even turned the tide of the battle, although I would not necessarily think it. Rar 04 here, doing okay. I don't know why he brought a bow hero with only 24 kills, an interesting choice. But yeah, his cavalry blob that was marauding about got a fair amount of kills, mostly in the late game, but didn't do too much that was cost effective. The rest of his guys trading decently. Meanwhile, Mountain Dun here. Oh my god, parrot guns with 409. Yeah, that is why you always bring a parrot gun as long as the rules allow. They almost always pay for themselves, especially in big battles like this. Lots of kills all around. Hide behind Snake here. Doing okay. The counter battery of the Armstrong guns, not really picking good targets, only 197 kills. I think that's mostly because he was firing at my bow cav for a fair amount of time, and the bow cav were dancing around, they were behind a hill, so he just didn't really choose the right targets. He should have picked higher priority units from the force in front of him. And then meanwhile, his Vermilion force, yeah, not trading too well. And yeah, oh, actually they had 2 parrot guns, didn't quite realize that. That's kind of intense. Surprised they didn't get more kills overall. But anyways, that's it for this battle. Hope you guys enjoyed, and again, thank you for all your support. I will see you in the next one. Peace out.